I don't think there's this kind of crisis at Munster.
Yeah.
I just think Munster fans are still adapting to the fact that they're just nowhere near as good as Leinster. And I think it's very hard a pill to swallow when you've come from the team of the Naughties.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby. It is the final show of this season and we have got a full house today. We've got Mr. Greg O'Shea.
Hey Jason, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
We've got Lindsay Peat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good evening. And the man himself, Ulster's most capped player, Mr. Darren Cave.
What's so funny about that?
Are you Ulster's most capped player?
Do your research.
Mayor, guilty.
Actually?
Joint tied. You get an honourable mention for Andrew Trimble. Yes, I am.
Congratulations.
That's
pretty cool.
I wondered why I wasn't really getting any respect for you over the past season.
I didn't know that,
You
man.
don't remember me playing.
Jeez, how have we gone the full season without me knowing that?
How have we gone the full season without me bringing that up?
Wow.
Darren, I believe you were over in South Africa for the last couple of weeks. What was supposed to be a short trip, but certain team in blue kind of extended your stay.
Yes, we were all very disappointed, weren't we, when the Bulls turned over Leinster. None more so than my wife, who got a phone call afterwards to say, can I stay in South Africa for an extra week if Ulster lose? So yes, it was a busy time. It was a great experience, great to be over there. And I'm still married, I think, just about.
10 days in Cape Town. What you get up to besides watching rugby?
Working, of course. Hold on, I don't think my wife listens to this podcast, if I can tell the truth. It went quite quickly. There's a lot of people over there.
It's a cool city, isn't it? The culture there is amazing.
So I'd actually never been, because it was the lesser teams that were in the league when I was playing, based out of elsewhere. And yeah, it was a good place to be based. I was in the same hotel as Ulster, which was great crack after the game because the boys were a bundle of joy, as you can imagine. But Lindsay and I actually chatting. It's funny, that's the first time because of COVID I've been so close to the group. Physically close, and it felt really, really weird. Players had spoken to me before about like being in the group and then being an outsider, and like they didn't make me feel like an outsider. They were all but I felt really like, even walking, I didn't know how long a conversation should last, because I didn't know were they on the way to a meeting or just, and I was by myself. Feels weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, because you're used to this schedule and being somewhere and you're being told what to dress, and now you're like, do I go here anymore? I'm not meant to be here. Did you get any dance tips off the DHL, the Stormers dancers?
Would loved a few, because that was unbelievable. I think we're going to talk about it later in the show.
It's classic.
As a whole, I think one thing, and listen, the weather makes like 90% of the difference, but as a whole, like they have it right in South Africa with regards like making a product. And in Ireland, we're very lucky, and it's very traditional, and swaff and suftum and all these kinds of things. But we grew up believing like the way to watch rugby was on the terrace, sideways rain. Like it's just not.
Knowing all your anthems and your songs and everything that is associated with your team.
So as a product, like it was unbelievable. Actually, I'd say it's the best like rugby game as a spectacle I've ever been to, both those games.
Wow, that's a big statement.
That is big,
because I played a lot of big games, Greg. We were just but it was unbelievable on that front.
That's interesting. If the final had been in RDS, it wouldn't have been anywhere near that spectacle you experienced in Cape Town. No,
nothing like it. Or Belfast. It looked like it was maybe heading there at one stage. And do you know what? Like the South Africans, like you guys were chatting about the feedback on this show. Even hello South Africa.
They love the URC.
But do you know what? It's great. And I think that'll continue to grow. I think the players are still coming to learning the teams and what countries they're from and what players are associated. But I think that will grow with the Wales being down there this summer. And how good is it for the competition?
So good.
It's just amazing. Class.
But do you think because obviously they love the rugby in South Africa, like because it's their number one sport, they've developed that product, or do you think it's something that could be here? Because I think it's kind of gone that way with a lot of the media, like rugby here has grown, but obviously it has to compete with so much more on a very small island. So, do you know what I mean? Will we ever get there with that product with it?
I don't know, because I do it is a boring answer, but like the weather makes a huge difference. I do, and I would, when I was playing, I would have said, oh, it's all very well saying play in the summer, when I was a player, I wouldn't have wanted to do pre-season in the winter.
Yeah.
Where see as now, as like a fan, I would say get it in the summer. Even just, I don't know if you noticed, but in the quarter-final, Munster got an absolute seeing to in Belfast. I don't know if you remember. But even see that, just like playing rugby in June over here, it just makes so much sense. And even the logic of like the Northern Hemisphere teams at the minute go onto the Southern Hemisphere, and then in November, vice versa.
Yeah.
Do you know, I just think as a product, the weather makes it, people are, you know, are in t-shirts. They're not all as well dressed as me and you, Jason. But
but you're not factored in there the fact that it's the end of June now at the moment, and it's been absolutely lashing rain for the last week.
Baltic.
So it doesn't really get.
But
summer doesn't even guarantee us sun over here anyway. So
yeah, I just think like, you know, like the climate in Ireland is never going to be great. We can't fix that. Although with a few international politicians are doing their best with global warming. That's a conversation for another day. Yeah, I don't know. And I do think that'll be the next thing for the South African players, actually, because at the minute they just play. Like they just
Well, you need a global calendar, like across the board. Like that's it's a huge problem in rugby for a number of years, like because everything's just all over the place and players are playing long seasons and they're playing here and they're there. Even for the South Africans, as we mentioned last week, it's been such a difference for them not having to get on a bloody 12-hour flight and get into a different time zone and play. Like they could go down and lose to a New Zealand franchise. They're all jet lagged. Yeah. Like everyone here knows like to be jet lagged. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It is horrible. Imagine playing a match then against the Crusaders or the Blues.
That was interesting. CJ Stander, who's on with me, and he said like just such an obvious thing to think of, but he's just saying as a fan, it's just so much easier to follow because it's not on in the middle of the night. You know?
It's on at 6 in the evening, it's 6 in the morning.
As a player, it's not that bad because the time zone's the same, you know. So okay, you fly overnight, so you try and get as much sleep in the plane, then you get up and get on with it.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Well, what do we think, like overall? Like I know we're looking at the South African teams there, but like the URC as a whole, it's our first season now. I know the Irish teams didn't win it, but is it an improvement?
Oh, I think so. And I know we've given them a lot of credit, but the South Africans, what they brought, the product, the character, the feedback, and like we said again, it's only going to improve the Irish teams. It's up now to the Scottish and the Welsh without being too harsh on them to kind of up their game now and look at it. And if they could come in and row in and improve the standard of their rugby, think of the league we could have if you'd just a standard, blueprint, it'd be absolutely, I think, good.
What do you make of it, Greg?
I thought it was a great season. Obviously, it started a bit slow, but then I think they've really gone to put a bit of money into the URC. And as Darren was saying, the South African teams winning has just kind of re-energised the whole thing. And there's no offence to Lindsay or the Leinster fans, but it's good to see Leinster not winning again for a 5th year in a row. Always sick of the lads winning it. And I'd say they're sick of winning it. It's like, oh, another URC, great. So it's kind of given them more of a buzz to it. But the Welsh teams, I think, need to catch up. We barely talked about them all season because they're not performing. So they need to have a really jig of the Welsh Rugby Union need to have a look at what they're doing down there. And it kind of hopefully that will spruce it up for next year. But South African teams have really made it much better, I think, in my opinion. Yeah,
you're a big fan of the Welsh teams, aren't you, Darren?
So go back to the South African teams. Genuinely, a couple of rounds into the season, like you were kind of wondering. Cards on the table. I thought, all right, there's going to be another restructure here. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And if you and I do think you actually have to give the URC a lot of credit because this is the same season where you had teams stuck in South Africa. There was planes being chartered. It was an absolute shambles. And the fact that they've got from there and they got like that as a final was very fitting for them. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for them because it's a new competition. You're making huge decisions. But listen, it's brilliant. It started when Munster went down the second time and they lost twice. And everyone thought, oh, this is interesting. And then Ulster went down and lost twice. And then Leinster went down and lost twice, albeit with a slightly depleted team. And straight away, it was like, those three teams would never go to Wales and lose twice. And as the South African teams just started disrupting.
But they were kind of exciting and controversial losses, weren't they, as well? Like Ulster did, they were marred. They were... Well, at one stage 21 points behind, then the comeback tries disallowed. So there was always lovely talking points. You know what I mean? It was never just a straightforward, they went to South Africa and lost, They were
exciting games,
even the South Africans were at times so ill-disciplined and still got away with it, or their kicking game, or just they lived on the edge all the time. You just didn't know what to expect from them, and I loved that.
Yeah. You mentioned Scottish teams there a while ago as well, saying that they probably need to improve. I thought Edinburgh did really well this season.
Yeah.
Glasgow probably need to improve, but I thought Edinburgh were exciting. They got a win down in South Africa.
Yeah.
Them and Connacht are the only teams to get a win, and I was really impressed with them. Like, we have Mark Bennett coming up in a while, who's playing really well. So it's good to see those guys doing good.
Yeah, but the Italians as well, I suppose. Do you know, it's just again, like, do you know, we're thinking through moments of the year, and like Italy finally, 35, 36.
Benetton had some good games in fairness.
They
so, like,
did, and
good.
they were nice, and you know, they.
Poor Zembredo.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So it'll just have a knock-on effect internationally and just on the game as a whole. So yeah, look, it's goals, and not everything's going to be perfect.
Also, when you have a better competition and more good teams, it does make like teams like Glasgow and Edinburgh. I think they had a decent season. Like, I think
Glasgow started well, in fairness.
seventh and eighth.
Yeah.
Which traditionally in the league you'd have rolled your eyes, but if you look, so it means 6 teams. Like, obviously were in front of you, but that's no mean feat now with the quality of teams, because do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to finish in particular those 3 Irish provinces, and I think one of the real downsides of Irish rugby this season was Connacht as a whole in the URC. I just thought they were so disappointing. That's one thing I think looking forward to next year. I just would love to see more from them. I think the standard of the competition is really, really high, but Connacht are a better team than that.
Yeah, they show glimpses of it throughout the year though. They had some really good games. As we always said, they were just up and down, and they didn't have that. They don't have that second line of players that they can just throw out in the middle of like November, December, like, you know, that are going to get the win that Leinster have, or I was going to say Munster probably don't have it. They probably will next year have that second line of players.
You know what, and that's what I think is going to be really interesting with the URC as a whole the next year. And it does, maybe sounds like an Irish guy making an excuse, but like, I played, I'm not saying I was any good at rugby, but I was there.
Most capital Ulster man.
Guilty. I honestly do not believe from the bottom of my heart that would have been an all South African final if those South African teams had been playing in Europe. So I think if Munster hadn't had the back-to-back against Leinster or Exeter, if Leinster hadn't, I know Leinster didn't win Europe, but they went through off the back of the Six Nations, those huge games at the same time trying to compete for point. I do not believe that that would have been an all South African final.
It would have been too much rugby for South Africa.
Yeah, well, I just don't really buy into this thing that like Leinster have been found out and Leinster are crap. I just don't think people understand how difficult it is to compete on both fronts. Yeah. So, first of all, it's a lot of rugby. I think with there being a last 16, was there 8? There was 5 games in Europe and 3. So to go the distance, it's 8 fixtures.
8 knockout games.
There's only 18 games in the league. It's nearly 50% of your season again off the back of a Six Nations. I just think it's so hard, like logistically, flying around the world, mentally, emotionally, physically, to compete on both fronts. So I don't think it's not sour grapes actually, because I was delighted to see Leinster get beaten. But I think it'll be like next year. Like the South African teams, do you know what I mean?
Is there much of a jump in level? Do you know the way, like, there's a huge jump from going like playing club rugby to playing international. But how big a jump is it if you played a URC game to playing a European game? Like, is it like much tougher?
Well, yeah, in the past it would have been, but now, I mean, smaller than ever, because like it's kind of the quality of the opposition's up. You know, let's like, if you call a spade, like the league before the South African teams, I mean, half those teams aren't good enough to play in the Champions Cup, you know? So it is like, it's a big jump. You would see teams come into Belfast or Limerick and like, you know, a depleted Scarlets team who were maybe playing on the same weekend as like a Welsh playing the Barbarians, and, you know, Ulster would get a bonus point in 45 minutes and take off, you know, 5 of their best players. It's not like that anymore. So listen, I'm excited already. More ruggers.
Yeah.
I am glad you brought up though about it's Leinster not being found out, because I think we kind of said it, like obviously La Rochelle and they wanted that 5th star so much, but I don't think as well people attribute we just see this like lads that this is their job, you know, for professional rugby. But like you said, the mental side of it, and I think as much as Leinster have depth, I think to constantly being rotated in, which is good, and the lads seem to have a buy-in, you still have to get up for those games, you know that. Do you know what I mean? And like the mental side, we don't attribute enough to. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, it's not a found out.
You think going into training 8 weeks in a row, like every Monday morning, all right, guys, we've another big game this week. Like you have to stay mentally
big game
switched
this
on. Yeah, another big game this week. Like analysis of last game, next game, who you're going up against. It's just, I'd say the Leinster lads were just exhausted.
You're always switched on, and if you're not in the starting team, you know yourself the responsibility of making sure training is facilitated and you have your homework done, trying to be the opposition, and you don't want to let anyone down. So I think mentally to switch on.
And they still played really well. I don't think they got found out. I thought they played really well.
They also have to factor in the fact that you look back at the November internationals when Ireland beat the All Blacks, and you look at the Six Nations where they literally lost out by a point to France. Like 13 of the 15 players were Leinster players. So they had to get themselves up for those 5 Six Nations games against the All Blacks.
On this time off, the Leinster lads just put on green jerseys. Like,
they're still playing. They're going to New Zealand now. They had about 3 weeks.
No, they're going to New Zealand.
Exactly.
It's mad, and let's be honest, they were a whisker, I say a whisker from winning the Champions Cup, which is, other than the World Cup, potentially the World Cup's probably the hardest rugby competition in the world to win, and they were closer than a whisker. Anything goes wrong.
One decision, they won it.
Literally. And I don't buy into this Leinster being found out and Leinster they're in turmoil, and that's an exaggeration, but it's just not. It's just not. They lost 2 games of rugby and they're human.
Yeah.
What do we think of Munster next season? So as we've spoken about, Ulster, we think bounced back and had a really good end of the season. We're probably unlucky. I could have went through to a final. I think Connacht, as we said, we've spoken about them loads of times. They have a lot of work to do in terms of, they have depth coming in. Leinster, I don't think Leinster have anything to worry about. But Munster, what are we looking at them towards next season? Do we see as you predicted? We've got Leamy in there, Prendergast coming in there. You've got Roundtree taking over. They're still short a few signings, but do you see him improving next year?
I really hope so. Because we can't just keep making excuses. Munster need to go back to winning ways. It's been too long now, and it's expected that Munster have to be in the top, and they haven't been in the top in a while. And I'm really passionate about them. Munster just need to start winning again. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and they've done the moving around of the coaches. We have some Munster guys back in that Darren knew was happening. And now I just think the biggest thing we were kind of speaking off air was we need to get some front rows in, some new young front rows. I know there's a couple coming up through the academy, but I think that's really where Munster are lacking. Because if you think back to the days when 06 Heineken Cup win, 08 Heineken Cup win, our pack was a joke. Monsters. And they were just dominating. Then you'd have Rog kicking into the corner, and you'd have really good backs. But I think we just need a new Munster front row. Nothing against the lads that are there, just change the guard. And then you have these big signings, Fekatoa coming in. He's not going to come in and win the URC.
No. You Snyman at least, hopefully he'll be fit next year. He's a brand new signing, and he's someone that will help that front row. But there's young guys there. As in, we'll speak now once we get onto our team of the season, but guys like Josh Wycherley, he needs to be playing a lot more minutes next year. The guys even someone like Keenan Knox, who hasn't really got a chance at tight head. And then even in that hooker, someone like Scott Buckley. We need to give these guys, instead of going, let's bring in this South African guy for 2 months, or let's bring in this guy from Super Rugby, which is what they did in the past with guys like Jenkins and whatnot. There's players there to be used. Hopefully Roundtree will see that.
Well, the good thing, you see, Josh Wycherley is only 22, so for a front row, they need to be getting minutes, because you can't learn your trade as a front row. It's dark arts, it is, and you can only actually do that when you're playing games. So the fact he's 22, he's probably a little bit ripe, but that's why they just need to go in. Dan Sheehan will probably talk about for team this season, and probably one weakness if I see him, and I'm not a hooker, but I'm a loose head, and I could see him even in Ireland, he's kind of the weakling at scrum time, but he brings so much around the park. But he'll get there, because the more games he gets, the more knowledge he'll get, and the players around him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think if Roundtree, an ex-forward himself, front row, he will look at that and hopefully. Yeah.
I think Leamy's going to have a big impact next year as well in the overall pack and the mentality. And because I was talking to some of the Leinster lads, and they really back Leamy and what he did for them, and they're actually they're fuming that he's leaving. They're all snapping and be like, he came in for a year, learned all our playbook, and now he's going down to Munster. Genuinely.
The thing is, he was a contact coach, wasn't he, at Leinster?
He was
skill coach,
rock coach or line-out coach.
And of all the things Leinster do well, they probably don't get enough credit for that. Do you know what I mean? Because the reason they look so fluent and some of their lines around timing so good is because of their contact and their breakdown and their set piece. I think it's a good time to be a Munster fan. I don't, I love having a bit of a pop at them. I don't think I think anytime there's new staff coming in, I think that's really exciting. I don't think they're as bad as everyone thinks they did. I think if you look through their season, they lost it to Toulouse. It wasn't even a loss. I mean, it was
penalties.
They were an absolute shambles in Belfast, to give them that, which was very unlike them. And I don't really have
they were wrecked
excuse
off
for
the
them.
back of the Toulouse game though.
It doesn't help. I think if you look through a lot of their season, they win a lot of games. They've won a lot of games. They put themselves really close to where they need to be. I don't think Again, probably like what I said about Leinster, I don't think there's this kind of crisis at Munster.
Yeah.
I just think Munster fans are still adapting to the fact that they're just nowhere near as good as Leinster. And I think it's very hard a pill to swallow when you've come from the team of the Naughties. So I think it's an exciting time for Munster. One area I think Munster have got wrong has been recruitment. And, maybe I was wrong bringing it up in front of Rory when he was on the show, but, signing centres, that's not going to win you trophies. And I actually agree with you, Lindsay, about the likes, like these younger guys, they need to play, but you're not going to win trophies with a couple of young lads in the front row. You're just not.
Yeah.
You look at like the Stormers, like two of the best props in the world. Do you know what I mean? You look at Leinster, more than two of the best props. Like the best teams have young players coming through, but they also have top quality. And again, incredibly unlucky with the Snyman injury. And you just can't. So unlucky. He's a guy who literally would have made a huge difference. They just do not have enough quality in their front five to be a team that wins trophies.
It's that kind of top percentage of games where Munster just aren't finishing off. Where a couple of years ago in the Naughties they would have won those quarterfinals, semi-finals, and we expected them to win. But they're doing well throughout the season, as you said. They're one of the top try scoring teams. They've had a good performances, but it's just that end of season games where Munster need to go out and win the semi-final. Do you know what I mean? They're expected.
I think we've got I put it this it's like Man United syndrome. Like Man United, everyone still thinks Man United are brilliant. But Man United have fallen off, but also all the teams around them have got better. And what have Man United done terribly in the last few years?
Signings.
Recruitment. And you do that for so many years. You do it for 3 or 4 seasons, and all of a sudden you're way behind, because what Munster need now at the moment is they need to sign 5 players. And you can't get 5 top players in one window. You can only get 1 or 2 top players, but they keep getting centres.
And in the middle of that process, their wee brother in blue has turned into an absolute mutant. Literally an absolute world rugby mutant in terms of winning trophies and producing players, which is not easy for Munster fans to watch.
No, it's not. Anyway, we will move on because we have a lot of stuff to get through. We're going to move on to our URC. Now, this is our Irish-based team of the year, because if we had South Africans in there, they'll just dominate the whole team. So we've seen the dream team that the URC put out. So this is the House of Rugby dream team, based on Irish players only. Right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Right.
Yes,
so we're going to start with the front row. So this is all up for debate now. We'll call out the team first, and then we'll see who agrees with what. Because what we did is we all kind of picked a team each, and then we kind of put it together based on votes and put it into a magic machine and come out with this. So we've got Loosehead, we've got Josh Wycherley, as we mentioned there, the young Munster prop. Hooker, Dan Sheehan of Leinster. Tight head, Tyg Furlong. Second row, we've got Leinster's Ross Maloney, Munster's Fineen Wycherley. Into the back row, we've got Cian Prendergast from Connacht at 6. Nick Timoney of Ulster at 7. Jack O'Donoghue at 8. And you're going to love the backline, Lindsay, because at 9, Craig Casey, Munster's very own. 10, we've got someone who's on the show recently enough, Ross Byrne of Leinster. Another person who's on the show recently, Mac Hansen of Connacht, is in the left wing. Big Stuart McCloskey is in at 12, alongside his Ulster teammate James Hume, with Rob Balakoon on the other wing, and Michael Lowry. Jesus, Ulster are dominating that back line.
12 to 15 there, it's all Ulster men.
That was the section of the team I was given.
Lads, come on, it's a full Ulster.
So, quick, we'll start first anyway. Any positions, Darren, that you're in disagreement with?
We could have got a few more Ulster players in, couldn't we? Do you know, genuinely, it is quite tough when you sit down and you try your best to go through who's actually played in the URC, who hasn't, and because of so much depth in all the Irish teams, you look through and he actually hasn't played that many games, and then keeping my Ulster hat on, the one name I thought could have got in there was maybe Alan O'Connor in the second row. Okay. I had no real complaints about the front row. 3 guys who've been absolutely brilliant. As I said, it's hard to think off the top of your head, how many games has Porter played, how many games Kelleher played, and you know what I mean?
Well, that's one thing we need to get out there, is that I put in a lot of different people but it's been changed around because we've based off URC performances. So
Basically,
we're going who played more URC games? Who'd where I was I'd have Porter in, obviously. I'd have Jean Klein in, even though he was in the URC team.
He was in the URC team, yeah. So he's someone, like I said, it's up for debate. Like I think I picked Jean Klein myself in my team, and
I put Jean Klein in for
Wycherley. Had a great season as well. So I mean, it's a tough one.
But equally, and when I think of Ross Maloney, who has had a great year. Was it not in? There was one of the games at the Aviva. Was it not the Toulouse game at the Aviva? That's kind of where I remember him.
Yeah.
Just but it was a European Cup game.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of. But listen, it's a good team.
I put him in, because I felt aggrieved that he didn't actually start in the semi-final against the Bulls, and I think he's just one of them guys who does his job. He's just one of them guys who's consistent. He does his job, and I just don't think he gets the credit for it because he's in amongst the team. Like if you're in with Ryan Bard, James Ryan, all these big names in the second row who just take over, and I just think
never gets the headline.
He never gets it. And I just think he's a guy, and looking through, Nick Timoney had an absolute ridiculous season. He's 274 tackles, but Scott Penny had before his injury had if you look back at his stats, unbelievable. He's maybe 7 tries, he started so many, 12 games, but then he fell off and you forget him, because again, there's so many performances just cloud you, but...
thought as a whole, I like that back row, I think is, I think you could definitely put other players forward, but I think it's hard to argue that those three...
that 7 jersey especially, you could have Conor Oliver in there who's been class all season, and the small matter of Josh Van der Veer, European Player of the Year, but do you know what I mean? I don't think he has done a huge amount in the URC this year, but he's still been pretty good, but he hasn't been as good as Nick Timoney, I don't think.
Yeah.
In the URC anyway, specifically.
Yeah, you could easily swap Conor Oliver in there for Nick Timoney, but we're going through Nick Timoney's stats and they're a joke. Do you want to rattle off a couple of them?
I can't. I saw a thread on Twitter we were having chatted for, and it was just, when you put a lot of the metrics in, per minute and per matches played, he comes out on. It's a really interesting thread on Twitter, and he comes out on top of just literally everything, and it's just very uncommon that a player would be such in terms of workload, so many rucks and so many carries, and normally there's one area of the game that has to suffer. If you're the likes of a Roos, at the Stormers, and you carry the ball and you're top of the carries every week, you're probably not going to be top of the tackles because that's not what you're. Or there's players that maybe the likes of a Ross Maloney who, if you go, you're he's top of positive ruck impacts because that's his role in the team, and there's normally a trade-off. And Nick Timoney just comes out, on top all three, and so
could not pick him.
A little bit of Ulster bias, of course, down there. And he plays a lot in the URC.
Yeah, exactly. He's played. His durability as well. He's playing every single week. You can see why he got brought down to New Zealand.
Still not Ulster's most capped player though, so he's a way to go yet.
He's not far off.
A few rucks to hit,
What about the back line? I suppose Craig Casey, he was in the URC Dream Team of the Year. We're a big fan of Craig on the show. I think someone like Luke McGrath, who's been captain in Leinster in a lot of those URC games, another friend of the show who could easily have been in there.
I saw the Craig Casey come through in the running order before we started the podcast, and I was like, I'd love to go against Lindsay now. But I just honestly, I can't argue. I was like, Craig Casey had a great season. Every time he came on, he probably scored a try, got man of the match. And I was another person that might come in touch of distance of getting the 9 jersey would be Nathan Doak. I thought he was incredible this year.
Yeah, especially the first half of the season, he was class.
First half of the season, then he for some reason just kind of dropped off. Did he get injured?
Cooney came back in, really, didn't he? And took his spot.
Lindsay makes a good point. It's a long season, isn't it? And players go through spells, and I think John Cooney was out for a few months, and Doak came in and did really, really well. And then towards the end of the season, Cooney really started to play, and
he was back to himself, Cooney.
I don't think it fizzled out for Doak at all. Again, he didn't. I don't think he was making mistakes.
Sure, at one stage we were like, Nathan Doak should be in the Irish jersey. Remember that at the start of the season? Yeah, because he was just consistently getting tries, kicking, man of the match. And
I still actually don't think I'll be interested. I still don't think he will be that far going forward. Because in the end of the day, the reason Casey's there is because he's played more for Munster, but. That's because he's closer to Murray than Doak is to Cooney, obviously, according to the coaches.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought Luke McGrath, he's a guy just who, is probably wondering how he's ended up, so far away. He's actually never, I've never seen him play badly.
No.
He's such a good player. He's so consistent, such a good leader for Leinster as well, particularly, when there are a couple of players missing. So he could have been with the shout, but I couldn't really argue. Yeah,
you can't argue with Casey.
He's been great.
I think actually Luke McGrath welcomed him and his partner welcomed a little boy Bobby, if I got it right
the
this
baby
week.
girl.
So
He did,
congratulations.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. 10, that's something someone you were talking about last week. You were surprised that he's not in the Irish squad as Ross Byrne, like who was every year, like the man is just so super consistent, isn't he?
Incredible. Like, I obviously wanted Sexton there, but he hasn't played enough URC games, if any, really.
He hasn't played in the URC in 4 seasons.
So we can't have Sexton. But it was a toss-up between Ross and Harry for me, both the Byrne brothers. Obviously, Harry got brought down to New Zealand, but as you said there, Jason, Ross every week is just so good for Leinster, and he just runs that back line. And kind of like Ross Maloney, doesn't get the headlines for it.
Yeah.
He just keeps going, does his job every week. And we had him in here. He's obviously really passionate to get back into the Irish jersey. And I think if he keeps going the way he's going, he should get more time. But his younger brother's knocking on the door ahead of him, isn't he?
I think he's top point scorer.
Look how good Leinster have been the last few years. People forget, like, Johnny's missed a lot of games. When Johnny's not there, it's Ross that's leading the charge and winning all those games in Europe and in the URC with Leinster. So he just gets forgotten about for some reason because Johnny Sexton is Johnny Sexton. Do you know what I mean? Like he's
quite unfortunate with a couple of and rugby, like as we all know, it's so fickle. And I think what's happened to Ross Byrne, he got a couple of opportunities for Ireland. I actually think maybe twice against England. They were complete poison chalice fixtures in that as a halfback, when your pack get like,
when
you are the abs. And he played, I think he played twice against England. And he was pretty dreadful through absolutely no fault of his own. I mean, Dan Carter wouldn't have looked good the way Ireland got treated by England that day. And I just feel like internationally, it just seems that everyone's kind of said, right, well, he's not the next guy because he didn't perform in those games. I think he's very unfortunate. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah. He'd start in any URC team, like I think at 10. He's just incredible across the board.
Definitely. Looking at the rest, Mac Hansen, like I was surprised he wasn't in the URC team, to be honest with you. I mean, Mac has been class all year, like, and he's scored, I don't know, he scored like 10 or 11 tries anyway. I don't know, you can check those stats afterwards, but he's definitely scored a nice few. McCloskey, as you said, McCloskey's been absolutely... Someone actually gave out to me last week saying that you must not watch a lot of Ulster games because I said it's one of his best seasons, but I still think... Because they're like, Kluskey's always been good. Like, he has always been good, but he's been particularly good this year, I think.
Yeah, I would be. I don't know. I don't think he's been any better this year than he has been. I think he's been brilliant for 4, 5, 6, 7. Like I just think for whatever reasons he doesn't fit into Andy Farrell's plans, and that's the international side of the conversation just over, really. I think. But he's been brilliant for a number of years for Ulster. And he and Hume this year. I mean, Hume has just been ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I think he's going to play some. I just think Ireland's 3 best centres are the 3 best centres, and I don't think we should be having a conversation about somebody getting in there. But he has been that good. He's been absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know who you put him in front of. I don't know when but he is just.
Yeah, James Hume can't go in ahead of Bundy, Robbie Henshaw or Gary. Like, I just can't see that happening. But I do think he'll play against the Maoris. He might come onto the bench for one of the tests. Another guy that missed out that no one's really talking about is Chris Farrell. I thought he had a good season.
His first half of the season, he only had a kind of good second half last quarter. I don't think he started the season well. I think it's why he lost his spot in the Irish squad as well.
He picked up a good bit of form though in the middle of the season. Remember when that went up to Ulster and he had a really good game?
Yeah, that's fair.
The first game, but he just hasn't got back to where he initially was when he first came back to Munster. So I think it was unfortunate for him. But I'd love to see him back in an Irish jersey. But there's no space really, is there?
Just too many players.
There isn't, no.
And the age profile starts to work again. Like, it's not long. You don't have to be that far into your 20s before people start going,
pushing on. Do you think it's gotten to that stage with him? He's only like 26, 27, is he?
No,
maybe 28, 29. I'm not 100%.
I would be very surprised if he played for Ireland again, and it's not through a lack of quality. I think he's a really, really good player. I just think
too much competition.
The guys are similar age profile around him. And I think the likes of James Room and Frawley as well, who's obviously a very different player to all the other midfielders that Ireland have. I just I hope he proves me wrong because I like him, but I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
No, it's a fair point to make. Looking at the final 2 positions, I think on the right wing, obviously Rob Balakoon is the outstanding candidate there. I don't think we can.
No.
There's a few other players we could mention, but I think he's been class all year. But the last one, full back is definitely up for debate. I know you reckon Hugo Keenan should be in there. I also think, despite Munster's season, I thought Mike Haley was class this year.
I have to agree with you. I think Mike Haley deserves a mention. I think we've had him, like anytime we've done analysis on Munster's good games, he's been key to that. He's scored some great tries. I think he'd be solid.
Yeah, Mike Haley's been very consistent. He could have easily slotted in there. I think Lowry's just had the season of his life
dreams,
so
yeah.
far.
He's got into the Irish squad and everything.
You can't knock the glory.
He's not playing 10, he's class.
Exactly. He's playing at full back. But I think Balakoon's obviously a freak of an athlete. I would have put Conway in there instead of Balakoon. I just think Conway just offers so much security on the right wing.
Yeah.
Like airily, he just does everything right. His tackles, his finishing. I'd put Conway in there just from as a security standpoint. But Balakoon's obviously going to light up the world for you. But I just think Conway's and he's played a good bit of URC games as well. Conway.
That's true. Even James Lowe has played a good few URC games. That's another guy we're forgetting about as well. Like I know he was injured and missed a bit of it, but he played plenty of those big games. So lots of wingers put in there, but unfortunately there's only 2 spots, lads. But we'll move on. We've got a special mention to the South African players. So we've all picked kind of like the South African players who really stood out for us. We've got 4 guys here. So obviously Evan Roos, who has been an absolute monster this year for the Stormers. He's in the Springbok squad now. He won all three awards in the for the URC. Another guy is Siabelos Senatla with the Stormers, who was an absolute freak of nature as well. Leland Zass, who I believe is the top scorer in the competition this year. And then an old friend of yours, Marcel Coetzee with the Bulls. I think I mentioned him because that's a guy that went through such a horrific time with injury, and he's back in the Springbok squad now again, and he's back to when Ulster initially signed, we were like, wow, what a signing. And to come back from the injuries he come back from, and to the level he's got himself back to again, it's a mark of the man, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he's an incredible player, lovely guy, and he scored a boatload of tries as well. I think
he's 11 tries.
Yeah,
something scandalous like that, for a back row.
And that was actually one thing I really enjoyed. Was getting to see those South African players and getting to know them. Guys that, let's be honest, there's a few household names who you'd seen, with the Webb Ellis a couple of years ago, but apart from that, we didn't know. And it was guys like, actually for me, obviously Roos, but Senatla and Zass. I had never heard of Zass before. He was phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely. There was that, I was commentating on the quarterfinal against Edinburgh. I'm like, I actually don't think there's that many players floating about that beat so many players just for fun. He's quite physical as well. He gets the ball and he shrugs off 2 players every single time without fail. So I really enjoyed sort of seeing those kind of players. And long may it continue. There'll be more to come next year.
Another South African player that really impressed me that was consistent all year was Werner Koch on the wing for the Sharks. I played against him in the Sevens tour, and he's just one of the nicest guys around. South African guys are so lovely, but his aggression every single time he comes into contact, and we have a try coming up now soon from him. I just think a tip to my hat to Werner Koch as well. Really good season.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any other special mentions?
No, I picked the 2 forwards. To be honest, and Evan Roos is, I think he's top 3 in some of the stats for carries, defenders beaten. He's just an animal, and to have that hands and that playmaker at 8, it's sometimes hard to find. And to shun out the likes of Jack Conan or Jack O'Donoghue, who had a standout season, so you're when you go through even our own Irish players that had standout seasons, I think the lads that we've mentioned, and I know we're concentrating on South African, but they have been standout, and Coetzee. I think as well as leadership, he was so calm, and with the Bulls I think it was key to Leinster that day. I think he set the bar and the tone and the aggression, so no, I'm happy enough.
I wonder who Rassie will start now at 8, he didn't bring Vermeulen. I think Vermeulen might have to get an operation or something, or he might be.
Vermeulen was on crutches after the game, so I think he was. I'm not.
Roos and Coetzee, that's a tough choice. They're both the season both of them have had.
Yeah, I have a feeling for some reason he's going to go with Roos, but I don't I'm not really sure. I still think over there they see. I still think they see Coetzee as more of a flanker over there as well. I think it's because of they're just such big people, and I think over here Marcel is a number 8. Do you know what I mean? Whereas actually, if you put him beside those
very
guys,
small.
He's a small 8. Put him beside.
Not if you put him on the scales, he's not small. But if you put him beside the likes of Roos, he is that little bit smaller, and he does get over the ball a bit more like a flanker. So I think for him to play. I don't know, what's the injury status of Peter Steph the Toy, because he's been in Japan. I'm not sure.
I think he might be fit. I remember because I think he might be fit again. I think he should be okay.
You'd expect Khaleesi to play.
Khaleesi, yeah. That's Jesus Christ.
No.
Good luck.
That's just frightening.
You wouldn't want to be a Welsh lad. The thing with Razzie, the way he plays, and you saw in the World Cup win, like the bench are just as impactful as the starters. Like it's
bomb squad.
Yeah, exactly. The bomb squad. Like so, whoever's going to be playing, like they're just interchangeable. Like, incredible players.
Great stuff. We move on to our Try of the Year and Tackle of the Year contenders. As you can imagine, that was quite difficult. Lots of debate here, but we managed to come up with a few. First up, anyway, is, as you just mentioned, Werner Koch versus the Dragons. Absolute ridiculous try here from the Stormers winger.
From 60 metres out.
That footwork is. We were only talking about South African's footwork there last week, and look at that.
Incredible.
You can see straight away he came from sevens anyway, like, because you don't learn that in 15.
Serious pace, isn't it?
He's been doing that all seasons on the sevens.
It's one of those ones where like you think he's a couple of times, you think like you're like, I bet if you pause it from like a high shot and you're like, there is no possible way in a professional rugby career game that he can score from there.
It's like, what happens next?
What happens next? Oh, would you believe in a professional game he skins 7 people?
There's no space there in between those two, like, and his little step, it's like he just bends his ankle like that. It's very
speed,
He just glides, like he's no right score.
That's it, he glides. That's the best way to put it.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's so happy.
Next up is Edinburgh's Mark Bennett, who had an incredible season, and he was scoring tries for fun, but this is one of the best ones. Sends your man into the stand with a dummy. And again, hand off to number 6 and in on the corner.
Did you say he played a bit of sevens as well, didn't he?
He's played sevens as well, yeah. So these speedsters are just ripping it up in the 15-a-side game. Incredible. I was really impressed with him all year, guys.
Yeah, it was
he scored a few good tries, in fairness. Like, he had another class try where he stepped in and stepped out against, I think it was Benetton. Like, so he could have had another try in there that was up for try this season as well.
Yeah.
It's a serious try, isn't it? Just I love that ball transfer and all as well. Getting that big handoff. Won't want to see Cardiff won't want to see that again.
Now, this one here is our one of our guests, Mac Hansen. Like, look at that. Like, to keep his eye on the ball, there's 2 players underneath him.
This is his home debut as well, isn't it? Like, against the Bulls. So,
this was the try that got him, I'd say, the call up to the Ireland squad.
Yeah.
When he didn't know who he was trying to say.
No one knew how good this guy. Everyone heard he was going to be decent. And I remember watching that game and I remember going, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, that was just outrageous.
And he did that from like 65 metres out to take it and run the whole
just
pitch,
even the first part to, like, you know, because like, you know, on a wet night, and especially in the sports ground where it's so open the wind, I was like, oh Jesus, don't break your leg. Oh, actually catch the ball as well. And he just like effortlessly, he's just like,
Will we take a vote, so lads, who we voting for? Who was, like, if we had to pick an overall one there, which, look, we will be picking an overall one, even though it's going to be tough. I'm going to go with Mac Hansen anyway, myself. What do you think, Darren? Yeah,
I'm going to go Mac Hansen as well. I just think, especially because it comes from the kick as well. We love a bit of high ball, don't we, on this show? Man. I love getting so unbelievable try.
I'll go with Mac as well.
Yeah, watching back there, that Mac Hansen try's a joke. Like, I forgot how good it was. Yeah.
It's absolutely, and he had a few of those tries this year. Like,
he kicked on from there. He was scoring tries every single game. Remember the one where he sidestepped like 4 people in a row off the left-hand side in the sports ground?
Yes.
That game. And then he just got into
the try against Leinster as well, the kick across from McCarthy, like, and he gets literally like that high into the air. Like, it's Jordan Larmour, and you can see Hansen's foot is at Larmour's head. That's how high he gets up to catch it. Like, and even like, I mean, he had a phenomenal season.
I can't wait to see him go up against like likes of Will Jordan now down in New Zealand. Like, see how he gets on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exciting.
That's going to be good. We're going to move on. Another difficult decision here. We've got 3 contenders for Jukebox of the Year, my favourite award. First up is Leinster's Rob Russell's try-saving tackle on Sanalata.
And Sanala is one of the quickest guys I've ever come across in my life. He was on the 7th circuit as well. And the fact that he was able to chase him down into the corner, like, I'd love to know the speed stats on that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true, actually. He's a flyer.
Definitely 10 metres per second.
They were probably shaking the machines.
Yeah. Next up is Tommy O'Brien chasing back against Zebra. Unbelievable try. It looked like a sore one as well for the wingers there, didn't it?
Yeah, it's Reno Smith as well, isn't it? Like, he's a serious player.
Yeah.
He had a class season for Benetton, like.
Exactly.
Some tackle. We love a bit of turn and burn, don't we?
Yeah.
Here we have
Alex
Candlin gets it on Doris of all people, gets up and then attacks the ruck again. So
what I love about that is the fact that he no one really heard much about him in Munster. Like, we know he was a up and coming player from the 20s, but he hadn't played any senior games. He played a couple of games in South Africa, and then this was his first game back in Thoma Park, and he comes off the bench early because Coons goes down injured, and like, that's literally like a minute after he came off the bench in Thomond Park for the first time, and he goes up against one of Ireland's best back rows, start back rows, smashes him. And Kendall isn't the biggest player either. He's not the biggest. Smashed him, then turns it over. I was like, oh, hello, introducing Alex Kendall, and like he's kicked on since then. Like, and he's a guy that I think Munster should invest some time in next season, without a doubt. Like, when we're looking at players, I know there's a lot of back rows there. Like, there's the likes of Peter Mahoney and Jack O'Donoghue and stuff there as well. But he's a guy I'd like to see get minutes, because I think he's a guy that can take that step up. Yeah,
he's incredible. He came into the 7th team for a couple of months, and he just was unbelievable. He just picks it up. Like, he's just a natural athlete. He was captain of PBC. He came straight out of school, came into the 7th team, starting in the 7th team. Munster dragged him back because they realised how good he was, and he's just been playing in the URC, like nailing every single game. And as you said, the guy he tackled there is Caelan Doris, who's one of the starting backers for Ireland, throwing him back in his arse and robbing the ball. Like, I just love that he's a Munster lad as well, through and through. And I think he's going to go high places, Alex Kendall.
That's what we need more actual Munster players back in the team as well. Like, cause to bring back that, like when you're bringing back the likes of Prendy and Leamy, like, you're bringing that identity back into the club by having local players there. But if we were to vote, so Darren, who are you going to go with? I'm going for Kendall, actually, for the reason you just said. I just think it's class that the young guys just come in and go, do you know what, you're the, like, one of the best number 8s in Northern Hemisphere probably, and you're from the biggest rivals, and you're getting one here. I'm taking the ball as well. So.
I'm taking the ball off you as well.
I'd love to see it. Like,
I love it, man.
That's what rugby's all about. Actually, I'm voting for that as well, definitely.
I'm just going to stick with me Leinster blue. I'm going to go with Rob Russell.
Fair enough.
And Sinatra.
Yeah, we know who he's going to go with. After he just waxed lyrical for 5 minutes about Kendall.
I have to. It's just the double effort, like, poor Caelan Doris. Like,
listen, do you know what? It was one of the shining moments for you poor Munster lads. So, take it.
Had to give him something, didn't we?
You can have the token vote. I'm not giving it to you.
We'll move on to our moment of the year. I had a couple of different moments. Like, mine definitely, as you mentioned already, I thought the dancers. I remember when they first came up with the dancers, this guy here. So when this guy first came on, I didn't know that this guy was a professional dancer, right? And that they had this organised for the game. And I remember I made a TikTok and a reel for Joe, right? And put that viral song, what's your man, the BBC guy? My money don't jiggle. So I put that on. The video ended up getting 167 million views. Wow. And it was like the most viewed video in the history of Joe. And I was like, I want these guys back every week. This is the greatest content ever.
167 million.
167 million views.
That's like one of Greg's Instagram
stories. That's nuts, man.
Yeah, so like, and all because that, because I think no one knew what was going on. And like, some people were like, is he a player? Is he not a player? So, I mean, I just thought it was brilliant.
That's incredible.
It's just fantastic.
Do you know what I love about it is he's a bit heavy set, he's well fed, and he's just moving so fluidly.
Like a prop or something.
He looks like a prop, exactly, and props can move.
Yeah.
Did you meet him when you were down there?
I would love to have.
Did you see him in the flesh?
Yeah, it was, honestly, it was unbelievable. And we spoke earlier in the show about spectacle, and that's part of it, because the Stormers cheerleaders, the females, they come out initially and they were in the crowds, like, and it's right before kickoff, so it's as the players have gone in from the warm-up, and the crowd are like, right, whatever, and then he came out and the place went ballistic, like absolutely. And then for the semi-final final, he brought out a whole team of like lads, and they were like doing like going back and forward, and it was unbelievable. Like, I genuinely was just sitting there going like, forget the game. Yeah, this is brilliant.
As you said, it's such a good product, like, and it just got the crowd going.
The crowd was like, I don't mean like clapping, like they were screaming. Yeah, absolutely loving it. So it was class. Great stuff.
Well, it's nice to take off the labels like that. It's only women can be cheerleaders and dancers, and like, you know, you men can dance.
It's true. It's good. Like, you're moving away from stereotypes. You're bringing the whole thing in. Like, do you know what I mean? You're dragging it into the 21st century, but also it's brilliant.
Yeah,
do you know?
And he can move.
And I love that they're wearing the full kit as well.
Yeah, it's class.
Yeah, and the fact they didn't tell anyone that he was a cheerleader. Yeah, I love
it. One of my standout moments off the pitch, and there was more, like, there's loads we haven't mentioned, but was Nick McCarthy coming out. And it's not the fact that he came out. I think the stance he took as a role model, as a leader, and the bravery in a, let's be honest, a very stereotypical, like, you're shrouded in what masculinity is meant to be. But most importantly, I think the support from his teammates publicly to just say, like, he's a great guy, we love you, we're behind you, you're so brave. Leinster themselves as a club. And I think it just sends no more than the dancers and everything else. And, you know, we'll cover other moments. I think it's just a big moment to say, like, he, you know, the spirit of rugby and what we stand for in sport difficult conversations, but you can be who you want to be. You don't have to be any, again, labels, get rid of it. So, but there was more for, we haven't women's moments of the year, like any brains try at the end, and the women missing out on what a difficult year. Make sure we didn't get the wooden spoon. The Sevens winning their first medals in Spain. So there's loads of moments, but that was my standout.
Yeah, I played with Nick all the way up from 18 schools, 19s, 20s. He actually captained my 20s team. Such a nice guy. And like you've been in rugby dressing rooms, you all have. There's a bit of toxic masculinity. Like I'd say he found it quite hard. And I actually was chatting to him about it, and he was quite nervous about coming out publicly. But I was like, man, think about what you've done for anyone that's seen you coming out now. Like a young guy being like, I'm kind of struggling with coming out and talking. Like I'd say he's helped so many kids. 100%. And like everyone restoring it and giving the backing online, I think is just amazing to see. But another kind of shout out to Jack Dunn, who did it years ago.
Absolutely. Sorry, Jack's a great guy.
Yeah. And he came out years ago. So like also shout to him. He was kind of like a pioneer of it all. Like, so it's nice to see that it's just normalised as well.
Yeah, I did a podcast. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine, go on.
No.
I was just saying that
I want to hear from Lindsay more actually. Comes with the podcast.
Yeah, go on, tell us.
No, we did it for Pride Month last year. We did it with Leinster, and Jack was on it, and yeah, he's just a really good guy, and we've kind of on and off, just even like he made the Barbarians team, unfortunately that were COVID stricken last year when I was on it in November, so he's just a great guy, and he hasn't got the credit, and Aviva have done a piece of him there. With Emerald Warriors and the good side and the good people, but then obviously when the Emerald Warriors lads getting attacked in town, so there's difficult conversations to have, and that's what these do, and it's hard for people to take that responsibility. And I know my own personal, you build everything up, I did in my head, so it's so difficult, but it's such a relief as well to come out and just be yourself. And I know it's cliche, but
it's good as well. I think rugby, like #rugby values and #rugby family, gets thrown around like way too much because it's not always. So it is really good to see. I think so many other. Like for him to come out, great, but for everyone else to get in behind it and say like this is acceptable, this is okay, and do you know what I mean, and change, because there probably are people involved in rugby that still don't think it's okay. So it's nice, the old phrase like what you permit you promote. It's nice that the big, names that people are known in the games are supporting and saying this is okay. And it will encourage more people to be just. It does,
especially with the men. I think I've noticed you'll see there's a lot more openly gay women in sport, but with men, they seem to find, as you said, it's that toxic masculinity that makes it harder for them to come out and say it, because we've had like a couple of footballers come out recently over in England. Like there still isn't a single Premier League footballer that has come out. Like, and do you know what I mean? Like, and
same
things
with
like
NBA.
that. Like same with the NBA. Like, and this is a real big case in rugby. Like, so it's only going to help the game, and it's only going to help young people. I mean, you saw what Nigel Owens has done for people. I mean, Nigel Owens tried to commit suicide because he didn't want to come out and tell his parents he was gay. I mean, that's not right. No. Do you know, to even think like that is ridiculous, and the fact that he was put in that position in the first place is shocking.
100%.
Do you know, and that was the society to put him in that position, like so.
Yeah, well, we ran Union Cup 2 years ago, and Nigel was involved, and even equality, having a women's side first off, like that rugby is not only a men's game, like it was the women's, but what it brought together was the family affair. Like, yes, there was great sponsors, including Bank of Ireland who sponsored the show, and it was just the weekend in DCU was just the epitome of what sport brings and what it values from the grassroots up. That it's just people coming together for a common love of a game, and there was just crack, and there was winners, there was losers, but just everyone had a smile on their face. The sun actually shone from Thursday until Catherine Sapone handed over trophies, and then it absolutely poured. But they're just the moments we cherish, and they're not always. And I think we're going to cover another one now that we'll see covers the values. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think this, just to kind of the last point about Nick McCarthy's thing, is like it's bigger than rugby. It's bigger than sport. Like what was and himself and Jack done. Like it's unbelievable to see it, and the outpouring of support. Like the Johnny Sextons, Gary Ringrose, everyone's talking with them, and they're like, no, focus on this. This is bigger than rugby. Like so, I'm delighted for it as a whole. But moving on, because we could talk about that for ages. Is my moment of the year, bringing it back to Munster. We're trying to claim it as a Munster thing. Is Ronan O'Gara's win for La Rochelle in the European Cup.
And Ken Dallin got the jukebox of the year.
Can we get my picture with Ronan Donegal back up in post? Because running onto the pitch, and I was like, yeah. So
I just so happy. Moment. Just the Roger's story, I kind of mentioned it before. I was like, for him going from not getting the send-off that he deserved to going down to Crusaders, doing his trade down there, then La Rochelle, or then Racing, then La Rochelle. He's been working at that for years, and now it's paid off, and he's really built a culture in La Rochelle, is what I've been told. And just for him to get that win is incredible. And I'd say Munster are only gagging to get him back, but I don't think they
Won't
ever
be getting
will.
him back for a while anyway. I'd tell you that much.
No, it was class, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
genuinely enjoyed it. And just so much respect for, he could have easily walked into probably about 50 or 100 coaching jobs in Ireland, but obviously for him to back himself and go, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to coach in the best environments in the world, and yeah, like the world's his oyster now, isn't it?
Yeah, he's probably the most wanted coach in the world right now. Himself with the Crusaders coach.
Him and Scott Robertson, yeah. I think Scott Robertson, like, he's won like what 5 or 6 now in a row, and if he doesn't get that all, if he sticks around for another season and doesn't get that All Blacks job after the World Cup, and if what's his name stays on, I think he's going to come over to England or France or something, because
That's what
I'd say he's just sick of winning Super Rugby titles at this stage, and he needs to come out and test himself, because he's done. He, you know what I mean? Same with O'Gara. Like, I think O'Gara will stay there if he wins a top 14 in the next couple of seasons with them. I think he's the kind of guy that once he's achieved what he can achieve, he moves on. Whereas, like, as you said, it could be very easy for me. He can go, oh, give me a nice big fat 6-year contract with La Rochelle and I'll sit here no matter what happens. And a lot of coaches do that.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like, okay, and he did the same with Crusaders. He could have stayed. Scott Robinson didn't want him to leave. But he's like, oh, I have to win back-to-back Super Rugby titles. And I'm going to go down to La Rochelle. I'm going to
He
see
went
what
to
I can.
Racing first, then, didn't he?
That's not, he went to La Rochelle after Crusaders. He went to Racing straight away. And then, like, they actually won a top 14 with Racing. Then he went from Racing to the Crusaders, won 2 Super Rugby titles. I was like, okay, I've done what I can do here. Then he went down to La Rochelle, and now he's won the Champions Cup with him.
That's a man like grinding, isn't it? Just learning his trade. Like, it's incredible to see, and it's paid off. And the most impressive thing with Rog is, I think, the brain power he's put behind beating Leinster. Like, and so many people can't do it, and he's completely just manufactured twice now. La Rochelle beat Leinster last year, and they beat him this year.
It's right
So it's
about
like
that, it's
he's
2
obviously
seasons.
just like so good at just building a culture and a mindset and a game plan. I think that's the most impressive thing about it.
Definitely. Your moment of the season was a really lovely moment. It's only recent enough.
Yes, that's the way I am normally, very deep and thoughtful. I picked the medal presentation, the final. I just thought it was unbelievable. And for years we've been watching, like, these, particularly with COVID, these ropey kind of medal presentations where they get like old blazers out and do you handshake, do you not, do you fist pump, do you kiss, a few cabbages going around, and like you've like people taking a silver medal, and like I always hate when people are like really quick or like won't let the person put it on. I'm like, come on, like, it's not about you. And I just thought, let's get cheesy for a minute. The point, it's all about growing the game. That's the whole point. That's why we're all here. It's the main reason that I love the South African teams being in this competition, is because the local lad from Belfast, like, it was 6 weeks ago, the next generation were sitting looking at Sia Khaleesi going, that's the guy who's going to have a movie made about him. That's the point of it. So I thought a huge tip of the hat to the URC for just thinking of something a little different. And being there, like, these kids were just like, they were losing it. They couldn't believe it. And the Stormers players were brilliant with them. And I thought it was class. Yeah,
well, the South African guys just do it right. Like, that's just a beautiful way of like inspiring kids. Like, do you know what I mean? And it made, as you said, the players engage with them. They wanted to put on the medal, but they just like shake the hand and go over and start cheering them around with the trophy. So beautifully done. Yeah,
it's a good thing, because like, even like if you come into Ireland, like, there's lots of like disadvantaged kids or just regular kids and stuff who would love to be in that situation, because we've got a Champions Cup final now next season in Dublin, and we could have a URC final, like, it could have, depending on who finishes first, like, but it's something we should look at, like, because there's loads of like different groups of children and groups of kids and stuff that you can help out and go, right, instead of having this, as you said, the blue blazer, like, you know.
I think it will. I think people will be. They won't want to be copycatted, but I think the bigger picture is actually. It shouldn't be a box ticking exercise. It's a huge opportunity. Like, that's a huge opportunity. The final of the ERC in Dublin next year. Like, you could do something really special for a group of kids or a group of people, or you could go traditional and bore the life out of everyone and have like people cabbaging on TV.
That's
I can't watch any more of that.
That's strange.
We're running out of time, but before we finish up the show, we'll have a quick look at the Ireland team, because we have got so we're obviously recording this on a Sunday. We've got the first game in New Zealand coming up on Wednesday. We're playing the Maoris in a midweek game, back to the old school tour.
Yes.
I don't know, what are we looking at for that game, guys? I mean, you want to bring some of those young guys in? Like, do you want to like give guys like Nick Timoney game time? Do you want to make sure Gavin Coombs gets game time? Guys like Joe McCarthy, maybe. Even someone like Jeremy Lockman is uncapped. Is that the kind of way we're going to be looking at? approaching this game?
Yeah, I think these Maori games, they're there for a reason. They're to play these extra guys. They brought down 40 players. Like they have to, if they're going to do it and like bleed these guys in and give them game time, they have to do it. Like I'd be kind of disappointed if they just pull out a full starting Irish team with the Johnny Sextons and the Bundys and the Garys. I'm like, sure, what's the point? Like, do you know what I mean? Give these guys game time and see what they're like. And if they play well enough, then they might crack into the test team. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
What's your prediction for the series, Darren? Do you reckon we can win it?
I'm a little bit worried about it, actually. I just think it's been a really, really long season. And I do feel like this is not the best version of the All Blacks there's been, but I do still feel like they're still the All Blacks. I was on a 3-test tour in New Zealand at the end of 2012, 10 years ago, and it ain't pretty. It is tough at the end of a long season. I think that one culminated in 60-0 in Hamilton. So I'm a little bit just... Listen, I hope I'm wrong. There's just one part of me, or there's part of me that thinks like we're going to get pumped in one of these games. Do you know what I mean? Are we going to come back? Or if we rotate midweek, which we have to, you can't play your full strength. Like that's what those... So if we rotate midweek and go full metal jackal at the weekend, I think we could lose all 5 games. And
oh my God!
I think you could. Ooh! Listen, I'm not saying we will. I said I think you could.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And I think if you take a tanking in one of the games, what that does for your overall going into the World Cup. If say you ship 50 in one of those games, not even if the rest of them are close. So like I really hope I'm wrong. So I just think it's been a really long season and they've played a lot of rugby, and I think New Zealand are going to be better than people think they're going to be because they're New Zealand and New Zealand.
Yeah, I think it's on the flip. When we beat New Zealand up here in the Aviva Stadium, last year, whatever month it was, they were wrecked. Like they came up after a long season. I think that's why New Zealand got caught in the hop. Obviously Ireland played well, but New Zealand were they were just wrecked, man. They couldn't wait to get home. They've been on the tour for months. Then they went over to France, got beaten up, and now I'm a little bit worried in the back of my head. I think New Zealand are going to be flying it, man. They've been quietly going about their business down there. Crusaders are flying it.
Blues are flying it as well. Blues and Crusaders in the final. Like.
Yeah, I think they're going to come out and just guns blazing. And they're going to be pissed off for getting a beat.
I would say as well. The results for the Maori games for me are completely irrelevant. They're about trying to play well and trying to play players. The other side of that is if you go and you win a game, God forbid you win a series, that completely just like that puts Ireland. It actually probably puts Ireland second, and actually would probably put
to win
Ireland
the World
top
Cup,
of it. If Ireland win that series, they could go top of the world rankings. Definitely would go into second. And how that sets you up going into the World Cup is so good. It's scary given how things have gone at World Cups after good preparation. So there's a lot on the line for Ireland. I hope I'm wrong. I just have a little bit of a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, really. So I think my gut feeling is that Ireland are going to do really well down there. For some reason I just think Ireland are going to win it. It might be like a 2-1 win.
2-1.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're definitely. I think they probably might lose the series, but I have a feeling they'll definitely win at least one of the tests, I think.
Yeah.
And the Maori games, I'm not too worried about the results in the Maori games. It's about getting your James Humans and getting them game time. Yeah. Like that Maori All Blacks team is going to be damn good. As people forget, like it's going to be a very good side.
I think if you lost those 2 midweek games, you won one of the tests and you were really respectable and there were good competitive games in the other tests, I would be happy enough, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll win one test game, hopefully. If we won one of the Maori, but my key thing is use the Maori games to reward like men that you've brought down for, you're rewarding them for good performances, but reward them by making them play, because you will not see how they're going to do in an international jersey against some of the best players in the world if you don't pitch them against them. So I think he will do it, because I think he's shown us that, he's blooded the new players. Joe McCarthy going in, do I think he might make a bench? Maybe. I don't see him getting a lot of game time, but I would like to see Cian Prendergast, who has been in as a development for the Six Nations. I'd like to see Gavin Coombs get a bit of time. I'd like to see who else are we gonna? I'd love to see Nick Timney. I really would. I think he's only 26, and as I said, he's had a standout season. I would love to see James Hume the same.
Now is kind of the last opportunity to give these guys a crack at international before they start really prepping for the World Cup, because there's going to be autumn internationals and then the Six Nations, but that's going to be like, all right, what team are we playing in the World Cup, guys?
We can't make the same mistake that we always make. This isn't our World Cup. Next year's the World Cup.
I do like. I mean, hopefully, I'm not about to be proven wrong. I'm not. Like, I'd be amazed. Like if those midweek games weren't happening, that would be a squad of 31, which to me says that there's 9 guys touring there who wouldn't have been touring.
Yeah.
And I would be amazed, absolutely, like genuinely astounded if those 9 guys did not I would expect like the guys to be. I'd like to see these guys starting. Like when you talk about giving Gavin comes game time, like start.
Absolutely.
It's not an idea. And the way rugby is now, it's not easy to you say you're playing the All Blacks on a Saturday and you're on the bench and you get on for it. Like it's not easy then to go and play 80 minutes. So I do think you'll see a lot of like if there's 23 players, in a squad, you got 17 leftovers. Well, 15 of them should be starting or will be starting.
This is also a good opportunity for them to figure out the halfback issue. Obviously, do you know what I mean? Johnny Sexton's there. Then it's like, okay, Murray, Casey, Harry, Byrne, like figure it out now. Who's going to be that stepping up into the role if, for say, Murray's not there or Sexton's not there? Do you know what I mean?
I think you have to start Joey Carberry in one of those to make the test matches against the All Blacks. I think he has to start one of those. Regardless of whether we're 1-1 after coming into the third test or whether we're down 2-0 or up 2-0. Regardless, he needs to start one of those games because he's got a pretty impressive record against. I don't think Joey Carberry, he never lost to the All Blacks.
He's beaten New Zealand twice.
He's beaten them twice, so every game he's played in, he's won. So he's a bit of a good luck. Good luck.
And you're going to love this one, Lindsay. I'd love to see Casey get a start against the All Blacks.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
Go on, that's it.
I think
my work here is done.
I know.
What a way
last
to end the show.
episode of the season.
What a way to end the show. It took us 30 episodes and we finally got here. Greg wants Craig Casey to start.
I want to change my moment of the year off.
Took us 30 episodes.
Let me give my reasons.
Okay, sorry.
First of all, as I always say, I love Casey. He's a Shannon man.
I love
Ardskol. But now is the chance. Go on, Casey. There's your start. Show us that you can do it now. Do you know what I mean? We know Murray can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You're dead right. And he's a guy, he needs that game. I think he's a guy who can go on and can be Ireland starting 9.
Yeah.
Because he's only 22.
I'd love to see Casey going up against Aaron Smith. Like, do you know what I mean? Beautiful pair up.
Class. And forgetting about poor Jamison Gibson Park, so he's probably going to start those games. So that's another guy. So there's just some good 9s there, but he might get a chance.
What were you going to say,
Lindsay? Nothing actually. I'm going to put a question to you. Who do you think are going to be, who hasn't really played in Ireland shirt, will get a chance and will stand out on the tour?
Oh, gee, that's a great question.
There you go, my friend.
Joe McCarthy.
Who?
Joe McCarthy.
There you go. That's a
You
good
think he's going to be one that steps up?
After me saying I don't think he'll get a...
No, I just have a feeling that like the guy's only played 11 or 12, is it like 11 or 12 professional games rugby? Yeah. I just have a feeling that he is there because Andy Farrell is going, this is a guy who can bolt for the World Cup, and this style of player is a player that we would really love to have in our armoury. And I just feel like that's actually not based on from watching him. To be clear, I actually haven't seen a lot. He hasn't played a lot of rugby.
No, he's a big guy. Like he's a big unit.
I just feel like Ireland are crying out for that.
Yeah.
And I think he's a guy who, I say, that is not based on anything I've seen from him in the jersey. It's based on what Ireland, I think, need more than ever, and a guy that fits that kind of profile, do you know?
Enforcer kind of role, like that's really like South African second row enforcer, like a Batty's Bota kind of thing. That's what they're comparing him to.
It's the concern with Ireland going into the World Cup, what happens against brute force. And you have to meet it with brute force. I just think he's an interesting guy who could come from nowhere to really be a big part of the World Cup.
One pairing that I'm looking forward to seeing is the wingers. I'm like, who are they going to put in there? Because Mac Hansen and James Lowe obviously both play left. Who's going to play right? Jordan Larmour. Is he just going to step up and take his jersey back, which was his for a couple of seasons ago? But who would you see on that right wing? I know Conway's injured. He's sitting at home in Ireland. But like that right wing's up for grabs.
I think you can put Mac on the right there. Because I think Mac can play off both sides. And I think he's lovely hands. He's lovely kick. Yeah. I mean, I know like Mac is right-footed, I believe. And then James in is left-footed. So I think you could play the two of them. Like, and geez, man. Talk about two unbelievable wingers to have in the back three with Hugo Keenan then are just safe as houses. Like,
yeah, I think that would be the best way to Andy Farrell to do it. Put Mac and James on the wings, but will he do it? Like,
get your best players out there. Like, put Mac and James are going to score tries.
Yeah,
it's close.
But I think Jordan Larmour is playing the rugby of his career at the moment. Like, so do you reward him? Put him on, love him jinking in around all the Maoris and New Zealand guys.
I think Rob Balakoon would have got in there as well if he wasn't injured. Like, because he's another guy who was playing serious rugby until he got injured. So
yeah,
we'll just have to see, lads. We'll have to roll on Wednesday and then Saturday, and it's going to be a good few weeks.
On Wednesday morning.
8 o'clock in the morning, lads. It's going to be a good one. But unfortunately, lads, that's all we have time for this week and for this season. So I want to thank all the guests that came on this year, and of course, huge thanks to all the producers and the crew in the back. Obviously, couldn't do this without you, and obviously the three messers. Obviously, it's made my life a lot easier coming up on a early this morning now because of Darren. Poor old Darren made me get up at 6:30 this morning and drive up, but got here. But No, lads, it's been a good show. I've enjoyed it. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a great season. Yeah, it's been good having you in, Darren. You've always brought a bit of energy into the show.
Sure, you know yourself. Nothing better to do.
No, but I can't believe we've come to the end of the season. Like, we've had some amazing guests on. Just my standout one is having Contepomi on. That was my favourite episode.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was very
you have a
the whole
favourite
room
guest?
just went quiet and just kind of like he's so interesting. Like what he was saying, like, and he's like, he analyses rugby in such a way that he lives and breathes it, and you're like, and this guy's also a bloody doctor as well. So like, he's such a clever man. But yeah, I think he'd be up there.
Was he your favourite guest?
No, Darren's my favourite guest.
Well, you go.
Actually, what am I saying? It's
did
actually
it.
a joint toss of, we had Lindsay on as a guest at the start originally, so it's actually, they're my joint favourite guests. Lindsay
In
and
fairness,
Darren.
Lindsay had
Very
such
much.
an impact as a guest. She's now a presenter.
Thank you very much. I'll take that.
No, it was a brilliant season, guys. Thanks very much. And of course, a big thank you to our partners, Bank of Ireland, proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces. It's the last episode, guys. We'll see you next season. Thanks very much.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.